All right, we are back. Thanks for staying with us. You're listening to Planet Green Trees. This is officially episode 187. We're talking about guns, medical cannabis, and SB 783. And also, not mention the title, but equally as important, the reforming of medical marijuana and recreational cannabis at the university level. And to talk to us about that is Ian Elliott from the Student Advocates for Medical and Recreational Cannabis. Thanks for joining us, Ian. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Michael? Thanks for letting me come on the show.
It must be ironic that the first three digits after your area code are 420. How ironic.
Well, yeah, I people point that out quite often, and I must say that it was my cell phone number long before I started in activism. So not really sure if that was kind of predestined, but leaves you wondering.
I'm going to go with the former. I think it was definitely predestined. All right, so listen, so you're still a student at Central Michigan, is that right?
Still very much a student. I'm actually a freshman, so I'm still getting acquainted.
Well, that's fantastic. You got at least 3 more years, maybe 5 or 6 or 7, depending on which time. But it's good that you're going to be there pounding the pavement and having a mess there. Tell us about the organization and what kind of reaction it's gotten from the student body.
All right. Well, so when I came to Central in the fall of 2013, I recognized the need for an advocacy group here. So I did some research, figured out how to do it, and I put together an executive board, and we started. Since then, we've been aiming our efforts at educating campus. We believe that the future voters are here, and they're right in our midst, and this is the best time to let them in on the knowledge that we know, and hopefully influence some of these decisions in the future. So through just tabling events, bringing in speakers, we had Brandon McQueen at the beginning of this semester, and we're looking forward to Matt Abel and a few others coming towards the end in April. So through different variety of events, just raising awareness and acting as a resource for students here to learn more.
I love it. I'm sure that part of your the resources you're providing to your members are the Planet Green Trees and the content that we provide. It's partly joking, but we should come out and do maybe a live show for your.
I would absolutely love that. Yeah, we're always looking to collaborate. We're very, very big on collaboration. So.
Well, I think it's important. I love the fact, and we had people on last week that same kind of concept. Obviously, I mean, let's just say the university environment is the greatest place to be. I can't tell you what kind
best educated on cannabis.
Well, just generally speaking, not everyone gets it. Some people go through the experience, but it is an opportunity to really, be trying to just take in information and learn, and it's learning about yourself, and just the entire educational process is a very significant moment. And depending on what school you go to, the politics of it, who's funding it, you may get different views in how they're taught, religiously or whatever. But it's imperative that be an equal voice and an educated voice, and also to make it an important issue for people your age, and that they should know that the world that they're going to live in, the America they're going to live in, needs to be changed, not because people have to love marijuana, they have to love, medical cannabis, just because it's just a failed policy at a minimum. But what kind of membership are you getting? And tell me about the reaction from the student body. People are running to sign up, and have you had any bumps in the road from the administration or any professors?
Sure. No, actually, we've when I put in the application to start the group, I had confirmation within, I think, 3 or 4 days. There was no questions asked. Central is very big on promoting student passion, and if you're willing to educate in a professional and legal way, they take no issue. We are working pretty closely with a lot of different parts of campus, not not necessarily officially, but we certainly touch a lot of different areas of campus. You asked, I would like to touch briefly on our membership. I myself, I'm a leadership minor. We have a leadership program here. I was a student council president in valedictorian in high school, and so I got a scholarship. And my passion is advocating for marijuana reform, and so I've been using my position here at Central to do that. We have many of our executive board members are honor students. We have people in the music program. We have several faculty that stop in every once in a while to see what's going on. We've developed a very good rapport with the faculty in general. I feel, at least for the limited amount of time that we've been here, and it's just we've had a great feedback from especially the students. And as we talk about the bill, I think you'll see that it's definitely a unique environment here, as I'm sure you know. So.
Well, I want to hear about the bill, but first, tell me, what are some of the other significant, organizations that exist that have big memberships on campus? I'm just kind of curious, what are the other issues that people are gathering around at the university level?
Sure. Well, the biggest organization is the Student Government Association, which I'll get into that later. But obviously, the three political parties, the University Democrats, University Republicans, and University Libertarians are actually very active. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of student advocates for gender equality. There's several groups that advocate for LGBTQ, lesbian and gay rights. So there's a lot of activism going on here, but there's also just an enormous amount of great service groups, global medical brigades. We have a few alternative breaks programs. Our fraternity and sorority system is very strong and active. There are a lot of great philanthropy events all year round, coming from all corners of campus. So it's very, very strong extracurricular programs here at CMU. That's part of why I came.
Nice.
So I was curious because I know a lot of the political groups that you mentioned, albeit may not be able to agree on, anything really because of the spectrum by which you listed them, but many of them align on marijuana reform, cannabis reform, for different reasons. But I'm just curious, if that's, and you sound like you're positioned to evolve and grow this thing fantastic, but I'm just curious if you've got any feedback from these other groups. And, like the Libertarian Party, I remember they invited me, the local chapter, I think I went and we spoke at their, one of their, and they were, I told them what was happening, how the law was being implemented and resisted, and law enforcement was still raiding homes. They wanted to go raid the Capitol, when I was done speaking. And they're, so they don't like this government intrusion. When the law was enacted by voter initiative, and they're not implementing it the way they're supposed to, that upsets a lot of people. And, anyone who's I don't know, the only groups that are not getting that are the, law enforcement wing of some of these government branches. But what groups are do you find, kind of willingly endorsing you?
Well, we work very closely with University Libertarians. We're bringing in next week on Tuesday. We're co-sponsoring a joint event, if I may, with they're bringing in a Ferris State University professor of economics, Professor Branley, and he's going to be speaking on 8 reasons to end the drug war. So we work very closely with University Libertarians, but in regards to our resolution, our SGA bill, University Democrats were willing to endorse that. So we've had some communication with them. There's a lot of groups here on campus who, even after they saw the bill pass through the House, approached us asking if there was anything to do, anything that we could help with. One that comes to mind was a group called Organization for Women Leaders, or Outstanding Women Leaders. It's a group of young women here who promote positive, gender positive gender images, and they work very closely with a lot of other organizations to help young women here on campus get leadership positions. And so that was one that kind of surprised me, that they came out of the woodwork to ask if they could help with our lobbying efforts. So it's the fraternity system. A lot of them have rallied behind us, as well as the sorority system, and we've been really impressed by the feedback, as I said.
It's really touching. I'm moved by the fact that there's groups that you didn't expect. That's always kind of meaningful, isn't it? But maybe I'm not understanding the gravity of it, and I see now that what you're saying to us and our listeners is that there's this very large governmental body that exists and creates laws that govern the student body, and your organization has put forth a measure, is really what's going on here. And talk about the measure and what phase it is in the governmental process for the student government.
Sure. Well, just to kind of give you a brief outline of what student government is and isn't. So every registered student organization here on campus, I believe we have upwards of 300, including intramural sports and fraternities and sororities. Each is allowed to send one delegate to vote within the House of Representatives, or Student Government Association. So there's anywhere between, from my understanding, between 200 and 250 members in that group, and that's about as diverse of a group as you can get. It's a leadership from every single organization here on campus, top to bottom. So, and then in the Senate, I think we have 19 positions filled as of now. The Senate positions are, and actually our requirements for senators is changing, so I can't exactly outline how that works, but we do know that the senators are elected from the House. So everyone in the Student Government Association generally starts by representing some student organization here on campus, and then we have an executive board similar to our own government, president, vice president, treasurer, and so on. So it's a very interesting system. The one thing that I did, for the purpose of our bill to point out is this group was set up to give students a voice. Nothing that we pass and is signed or vetoed directly and immediately changes any policies. This is the go-to group for the administration as far as hearing student opinion, giving them a voice here on campus. The Student Government Association is certainly the largest group, and it offers the most diversity. It's a very very well-oiled system. So
nice. So, and where is the phase of the? Talk a little bit about what the bill does and where it is in the process.
Sure. So myself, as well as the University Libertarian representative, and along with about 10 others, worked for about a month to write this bill, resolution to amend residents' life-controlled substance and alcohol policy. And we started by just seeking committee endorsements. So within SGA, it's similar to our own government. We have standing committees which deal with particular student issues, and we presented to four of the 6 or 7 committees, and all 4 endorsed our bill. So from that point, we introduced it to the House floor, where there was little discussion. It was passed very quickly with 75% in favor. That night it was tabled in the Senate. There was some heated discussion, and so the following week the Senate resumed discussion on it and passed it with what I understand is an overwhelming majority. The Senate works a little bit differently, and I believe they did a vocal non-counted a vote, but we do know, based just from our bylaws, that the fact that the Senate leader passed it had to have been a clear, overwhelming majority. So that's where the bill sits now. It's been passed through the House, passed through the Senate, and it's in the hands of our president of the Student Government Association, and she has until Monday, I understand, to either pass, veto the bill, or just sit on it and allow it to go into effect without her signature. So from there, we'll begin the much more difficult and longer process of, hopefully not difficult. We're looking forward to collaborating with the university, and the fact 75% of our House, there's hundreds of members, and they come from religious organizations here on campus, different cultural and diversity groups. Just about every activist cause you can think of has an organization that's represented there. So this was by no means passed by a group of students who were solely fixed on pushing marijuana policies. This was a clear indication that, in my eyes, and to many people here on campus, that CMU and I would guess just about every university, as far as the student body goes, is ready to start participating in the same marijuana policy reform that we see around the country. So, given all of that, I'd also just like to point out that our intent of the bill was not just the practical application of we're asking the Office of Student Conduct, who decides the penalties, to lower the marijuana penalties to more closely match that of alcohol. We feel that the policies, when they were made, were based on research that's obviously outdated, and that we're giving students the wrong idea about marijuana and alcohol and its differences. And I think it's also important that, as advocates of this substance, or at least pushing for reform, that by no means are we endorsing its use. Anyone caught on campus will still be referred to the authorities as required by federal law. What we're trying to do is, for the freshman who comes in and maybe has never had an experience with alcohol or marijuana or any drugs, or been exposed or even taught to about it, that they don't look at these penalties and see that the marijuana penalties and procedure for discipline are so much more severe than alcohol, and from that infer that alcohol must be safer, because the biggest problem that I see here at Central is people walking away with great degrees, and many of them with some sort of alcohol addiction. And so we're not fighting alcohol, we're not promoting marijuana, we're looking at the research and the facts, and just asking that the Office of Student Conduct reevaluates their penalties, because we think it's time for that to happen.
Hey, Ian, you mentioned that it was policy, just correct me if I'm wrong, policy on campus for a student being caught with cannabis to be turned over to the authorities, and you said because of federal law?
Well, and I'm certainly not an expert on federal and university relations. However, my understanding and what I was told from day one when I got here, that the reason why you referred to the authorities is that because a federal institution receives federal money, that they choose to uphold federal law, which means if you're caught controlled substance here on campus, that the campus police department is called, and if necessary, outside enforcement is called, and you still go through the same criminal process that you would if you were caught with this substance off campus. So, we're leaving it up to our. Go ahead.
What you're saying is that their excuse is we accept federal money, so if we don't kind of respect this federal policy, then we might risk losing, because this is a state university, isn't it?
No, listen, he's raised a very important point, and I want to go a step further. The much of the policies undertaken by private institutions, public institutions, which are funded by the federal government, the policies are controlled by them. The things that are allowed, the alcohol, the policies. But more importantly, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no allowed medical marijuana use under any circumstances on any public institutions or universities. I mean, it's part of the student code that if you want to go to school and you're a medical marijuana patient, it is not allowed. Am I right about that?
Yeah, well, and that's, I actually had a talk with someone from the Detroit Free Press about that today, where it's right now, in my opinion, this issue, the laws are changing themselves. We're at the point now where this is a human right, because what I see from a college student's perspective are a lot of students here who use marijuana and who use alcohol and who are subject to the criminal penalties that are given by the state. And until those policies are changed, I understand that that's how it works. However, for a state university to have a no tolerance policy on marijuana to the point where a student who may have an epilepsy condition, and we know that this is the case for a number of students here at our university, and I would assume by inferential statistics that it's the case at all universities, that there are students who live in the dorms who, because of their university's policy and because they want to be law-abiding citizens, have gotten their medical marijuana card, are using this great medical resource, all within the boundaries of state law. They have a prescription for it, and because of our policies here at the university, if an epilepsy patient needs to use their medication, their prescription, they have to walk or have a friend drive them off campus to a disclosed location where they're hiding or they've locked up their medicine and medicate, and then come back to campus. And to me, for anyone to put that kind of in my eyes, a discrimination against students is just it's a tragedy. And unfortunately, we have a lot of students who are still subject to that sort of treatment because of our no tolerance policies. And so, although we're getting off track of what our bill here is for, for the purpose of your question, yes, that is definitely a problem, not just on our campus, but on just about every university campus.
You think you may address that in student government?
I was going to say we need a branch of your organization that deals specifically with patients. I mean, I could almost envision like a I don't want to say compassion club, but where you actually get testimonials from patients who have had positive benefits from medical cannabis. It's just so it can be visualized and so people can see it differently. Like those spoken words from someone who you never think would have been a medical cannabis user in any manner.
Sure.
Can really change things. And I just because I think it's a fantastic issue. I think it's violative and all the reasons why you said. But I do also think I'm curious to know what kind of punishment. I obviously it's been a little while since I've been in the college ranks, but there are specific rules now of expulsion, of penalties that somebody can tossed out by breaking policy rules. They've stepped up the regulations. They've stepped up the punishments just generally across the board. And what are the punishments now if someone's caught with alcohol? They're usually charged and criminally. And what happens with marijuana? Go ahead.
So let me, to dovetail into that question, let me paint you a picture that not only addresses that issue, but is part of the reason why our amendment bill was written to begin with. So we had a student who lives in freshman dorms who is a medical patient who walked off campus to medicate and came back and forgot that they had left their 3 or 4 inch pipe in their back pocket. No marijuana on them. They had their medical card, and someone smelled it. RA checked them, and they ended up. So that the punishment for paraphernalia is the same as if you had the substance. And they are now on. Not only were they given a $300 fine. They were forced to go through an online controlled substance education course, which feeds them the message that marijuana is one of the most dangerous drugs around, even though they have a prescription from the state saying that's not the case. letter was sent home to their parents, and they have, most importantly, they have disciplinary probation until graduation. Freshmen who had a pipe, who is a medical patient, and if they have one more slip-up, any sort of disciplinary measure put on them, they can not only lose their student loans, they potentially could lose their student loans now, but they could be expelled, and we feel the university should be protecting their interests, and that interest should be the students. And right now we're seeing some mixed messages on that. So, and I forget what your second question was. Can you repeat that?
We could move on to the next question.
I don't remember. I think it would deal with the, we were talking about the medical aspect of it and how they're kind of opening themselves up for, I think, some legal issues by creating. I was asking about the punishments is really what I was getting at in terms of alcohol and marijuana, right, and like a no tolerance or zero tolerance kind of policy.
Right. So it's zero tolerance in that any marijuana activity is automatically punishable. So the actual, and it's important, especially for the purposes of our bill, to differentiate between the resident's life, so the CMU's penalties associated with getting caught in the dorms, and the criminal charges. So a student who gets caught with either marijuana or alcohol, depending on their age, if they're caught with alcohol, are automatically referred to the police for criminal prosecution. So regardless of what the CMU penalties are, they're already going through the criminal proceedings for whatever their charge was. On top of that, as soon as they're let go by the police officers, as soon as their court summons is written or whatever that process may be, depending on the charge, a second disciplinary letter is put forth by the residence hall director wherever that student happens to live, and it's given to the Office of Student Conduct. And from there, depending on how many times they've been charged with that particular penalty, like I said, I outlined the controlled substance policy, which is important to show that someone caught with heroin in the dorms is penalized by the university the same as someone caught with marijuana. And so on the second offense, after that $300 fine and disciplinary probation until graduation, for marijuana on the second offense, CMU can decide to give you a $400 fine and or just suspend you on the spot. And if they give you the $400 fine, they can also make you go to drug counseling. I believe that the expense is on you. So with the alcohol policy, and one of the reasons why we're pushing our bill, it's a $200 fine the first time and a letter home to parents. Second time, it's a $300 fine, letter home to parents, and then they receive disciplinary probation until graduation. And then on the third violation, it's a possible suspension or another $300 fine. And that's a very big or, because I know multiple students who have had 3 violations, 4 violations, and it just becomes a source of revenue, in my opinion. But so that's part of what we're trying to change, is that disparity between the two.
Might you take issue with the letter home to parents provision? You guys are all adults, aren't you?
Well, obviously it's a little offensive, and although it certainly serves the point to show how not childish, but kind of how childish some of these penalties are. It still doesn't. The letter home to parents still doesn't change the fact that a student who gets caught with marijuana one time here on campus is looking at a criminal proceedings in the court of law, $300 fine and disciplinary probation until graduation, and then on the second time, they can be kicked out of school. And for a substance that we now know is not anywhere near as dangerous as what they thought when they made the penalties. So,
I'm curious, and I'm a lawyer, and I've yet to have any of these cases on a campus. I know they do exist, but I have represented people who've been, at the various universities who've been charged with offenses on campus unrelated to medical marijuana. Are you saying that the patients or students who are getting arrested or charged are you're suggesting they're unable to utilize their card as a defense in court because of the prohibitions under or the limitations of the act that it's a secondary school or college? Is that where that's coming from?
To tell you the truth, I can't answer that question. My dealings and my research in writing this bill are much more towards the angle of what the university's policies are. I can't quite answer that question as to if I understand what you're asking. If a medical patient gets
it's an unfair question. Yeah, it's an unfair question, but I'm just curious to know if they're just not I understand that do
they have protections, Michael?
Well,
what court is this prosecution taking place?
It would have been the district court, whatever city CMU is near or around, right?
You don't go to federal court, even though it's based on turning over to the authorities on federal policy.
No, but I mean, it's
seems like 4A would work in state court.
The act does not permit a person to do any of the following. Aren't they on a secondary school? Possess or otherwise engage in the medical use of marijuana in a school bus on the grounds of any preschool?
No, secondary school would be grade 12. Grade 9 through 12. So, I don't. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure if there's ever been a precedent set.
Well, I think it's also potentially could be because it's considered to be on federal grounds.
So, a state university is a federal institution.
But what if they're not even in a building because it specifically says in a federal building? Right?
I know that, but I'm saying as far as the policy of what they're doing, I think that they might be able to get away with. But I don't think in a court, unless there's a specific exclusion that exists, within Section 7. And I agree, it's not here. I'm not.
I would like to address the comment as far as getting caught whether you're in a building or not. There were a number of students when the program started that had medical marijuana cards for whatever reason. Many of them for debilitating conditions that we know they most likely wouldn't be able to pay the tuition and attend college if they didn't have their medical marijuana. And so a number of those students they went to the university and said we understand we can't have it in the buildings. Is there any way we can keep it locked in the trunk of our car? That's the way the state has asked us to keep it, and because your car is parked on in a parking lot that's a designated CMU, it's part of the CMU facilities and their grounds. The federal law still applies, and there's no difference in keeping a gram of weed in a pipe in your trunk of your car, half a mile away from your dorm. There's no difference in having it tucked up underneath your pillow. So that's another area where CMU has taken and I believe every university has taken a hard stand on that.
Yeah, but I just want to point out the state university is federally funded, so they're kind of guided by some of those policies in order to keep their funding. But those are not federal buildings, so I don't believe that would qualify.
Well, federal buildings not even in the law.
Right. Anyway, hey, Ian, excellent job in Mount Pleasant. That's really great. Sounds like you're on a good path. There's a lot of successes, and it also sounds like you'll be doing it for a while. You're just coming in there as a freshman, so that's great for all of us, and we really appreciate it.
And please feel free to reach out to Komorn Law and our radio show here, Planet Green Trees, and I know Jamie or myself, Rick Thompson is out here, Chad who works with me. We'd all be happy to help out in any way that we can, and love to look forward to working with you on some of that stuff. Yeah.
And Michael, I would also just for your audience, I would like to point out that one big thing SAMR's looking forward to in the future is participating and working directly with Brandon McQueen and the Coalition for a Safer Mount Pleasant to bring a ballot initiative to the city of Mount Pleasant here. So hopefully maybe we can come back and talk about that at some other point. We'd love to continue working.
Sounds good.
It sounds awesome. We look forward to doing that and give our best to Mr. McQueen, the infamous and an overly tortured Brandon McQueen. We wish our best. And thank you very much. And we look forward to talking to you. It was a pleasure talking to you. Have a great night.